Hey, I'm Lauren. I am a former trauma therapist turned content creator, and I make videos about frugality, minimalism, retiring early, saving money. I have been on a low buy since January, and I failed a few times and then stopped making content about that because I felt this isn't working. The spending crept up again, and I went over my budget a few times. So I rededicated to the low buy a little over a week ago. And yesterday I was in this place of I don't want to feel guilt and shame all the time over every single purchase. So this morning, as I normally do on the weekends, I listen to my favorite creators on YouTube. And today I decided to focus on Ramit Sethi because his approach is often one of joy and not worrying so much about the minutia and just really focusing on having your big saving goals, and then the rest is up to you how you want to spend, but he's not against spending money. And so I want to live in that place. I do think the low buy is still a great idea for me. I think it has been necessary because it's given me an opportunity to suss out what kind of spending I'm doing in a negative way emotionally, and then what kind of spending I'm doing in a positive way emotionally. And so I talked a lot recently about return on investment. I get my kids every other week. In the summer, it's 2 weeks and 2 weeks. So we have 1 week down and another week to go, and then they go back to their dad for 2 weeks. So we have been having a lot of free time at home because it's the summer. And so wanting to go to the kids' play place, wanting to buy crafts for the house, wanting to go do this and that, go out to eat is normal. And I know some of it is like negative stuff I have potentially taught them around money. I talked recently about how I had to shut down an Etsy scroll. My youngest is turning 7 in August, and she wanted to buy something on Etsy. We came home from school. I said, yes, that's fine. We got on my computer. We're scrolling through. And then she just started to get overwhelmed with the choice and her budget, her spending limit. And I had to shut it down. There was a meltdown. And words don't often teach, it's life experience that teaches. And I learned that phrase from Abraham Hicks, who talks about letting our emotions guide us into what's good and what's not good. One of the mantras that she says that I like to use is, what is the path of least resistance? Sometimes the path of least resistance means standing up for yourself, getting a lawyer, fighting for what's rightfully yours. And sometimes the path of least resistance is just to let go. Everybody gets to decide what the path of least resistance is for them. So for me, it was this low buy. But something I do know from being 43 years old and having been sober for over 19 years, having 2 kids, having another relationship, is that we are allowed to grow and change. And we often do grow and change every day, month, year, decade. We change a lot. Our priorities change, our values change. I've talked a lot on this channel about being tired of the minimalism roller coaster, the declutter, reclutter, yada, and it is tiring. And so there is something to extract from minimalism content, frugality content, low buy content. But I often see a lot of creators get in this space of overthinking every single purchase and getting down to the minutia, and then guilt and shame, and then wanting again and wondering if that's all okay. I'm here to tell you all of it is okay. I think balance is a misnomer when it comes to life because we go through different seasons. Sometimes they're busy, sometimes they're not. Sometimes we have more peace, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're super ambitious, sometimes all we want is rest. I'm gonna apologize now for my wet hair. It's the weekend. I live in Hawaii. I don't really use a blow dryer. So much of what we see online isn't real. This is me on Saturday. I did clean the house this morning. We are not doing anything except for going to the pool today. And I wanted to make content. I wanted to talk about trying to get to this place today where I feel okay if I make a purchase, even if it's not, if I make a purchase that might seem frivolous to others. But if it makes sense to me, that's okay. But I also am going to follow my mantra of the path of least resistance. Path of least resistance. Sometimes that means buying the indoor play place for your kids if you're overwhelmed and just want to sit, but they need exercise. And yes, maybe it's $60. But if you can afford it and it's not going to sort of upend your savings goals or make a drastic difference on your financial future, then by all means do it. Something I have to remember is I'm extremely fortunate. I'm semi-retired early. I worked blood, sweat, and tears for over a decade to get to the FIRE goal. Sometimes I need to rein in my spending because the path of least resistance is a low buy or a no buy and block the Amazon app for a week. But sometimes the path of least resistance is ordering the oatmeal because I've got my kids half the summer and I can't drive 40 minutes into town, go to the busiest Costco in the world in Honolulu. You can look it up. I'm not making that one up. I am not going to do that on a Saturday, but I can order it for maybe it's $1 more on Amazon and it'll be here tomorrow or the next day. And maybe that's when we need it. I see that we're going to run out and I just don't have time in the schedule. When I'm looking ahead at my schedule, it makes more sense to just have it shipped to my door. I'm making this video because if you're being really hard on yourself, or maybe you're just questioning what is the path of least resistance, for me, it is taking time, more time with purchases. Impulsivity is just not my friend when it comes to buying stuff. That's what has led to a house that needs to be decluttered every other year. I try my best to take care of what I have, but if I'm struggling to take care of my things, then the question of do I have too many things is a great question to ask. Or is it just my capacity that week? Sometimes I've gotten rid of things in the, under the religion of minimalism, and then 2 weeks later, I'm like, man, I really wish I hadn't gotten rid of that because I was overwhelmed in the moment. And maybe I just needed to have a messy house that week. 2 weeks later, I would really like my French press that I gave away to the thrift store back. There's nothing inherently wrong with buying something out of the joy or even the dopamine that it may give you. There's also a lot of goodness in looking at why I want to buy something, sitting with it for 48 hours if it's not some sort of consumable that we need immediately. Looking at it for 48 hours, making sure I'm doing my research and investigation on whether this is the best item to bring into my home, knowing full well at my ripe age what happens when I just bring a bunch of crap in here. So I just want to say that I originally started this channel because I wanted to help people become financially and emotionally free. I myself work on those things all the time. I think it's very human and in our nature, and part of why we're here is to create and want more and to keep reaching and striving for growth and to see what's out there, to see what's next, to see what we can do, what we're capable of. Sorry, I have a hair on my nose. I like the Earth School. I like being here. I like being with my kids. I like learning and growing with them. I like the same with my partner. Even though my marriage didn't work out, I have gained so much from that relationship. The most clarity I have ever gotten out of what I want and need comes from failure. If I can look at it that way and keep my head high and not consume too much information around doom and gloom when it comes to my finances, I just have a more peaceful existence. Lately, especially when I rededicated to the low buy, I over-consumed low buy, no buy content. And I started to notice this pattern of negativity and shame and guilt. And I felt maybe this content is not the right content for me. I know that from listening to my body and my emotions when I'm consuming it. Sometimes I want to reach out to those creators and say, okay. And what other people are saying about you on the internet does not define who you are. I want to hug them and tell you that what other people say, even me, does not define who you are, what you need, and your greatest life. I don't know what's right for you. All I can do is tell you what I did, what's happening for me, and what I do differently. And you're going to take what you want or need and leave the rest. I want to be a safe sounding board, a place of peace for your financial freedom and future. And even when I was spending out of control and making way more than I am currently before I retired early, I was spending on all kinds of stuff. I was shopping $300 to $400 a month on clothing. I was not thinking about stopping at the grocery store. I wasn't looking at prices. I still did okay, and a lot of people lived that way. I was inspired to buy a new car when I went home to Texas and I saw my aunts and uncles and cousins driving the latest and greatest, and I thought, I deserve that too. They're happy, they seem fine with just working for all this stuff. Why can't I do that? And the truth is, we're different. I do drive a 2015 Prius, and they would never do that, and that's okay. And I actually am still looking forward to the day that I buy a new car. I'll probably never buy a brand new car, but one that is the one that I really want. I'm excited to save up for that. My Prius is great, but maybe a decade from now, I could drive a new Highlander hybrid. Those are sweet. Although the new ones, I don't know, with the subscription services and stuff, I've heard some bad things about some of the modern cars. Maybe I'll buy the fully restored version of my first car. I had a 1995 Jeep Cherokee, the classic edition. Mine was a 2-door, so I would buy the 4-door. It was forest green with tan interior and wood grain accents, and I still have dreams about that car. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. I loved that car. It's okay to love cars and not be driving your dream car. I think when Abraham talks about going on vacation, she says, the end result of going on vacation is being at home. If it was all about the destination, then we would just stay home because we get back home. But it's not about the end result. It's about the adventures along the way. The joy is sometimes in the wanting, but not the having, because once you get that car, then it's the next dream. And the dream is what keeps us alive. Thanks for being here.